So hopefully you're seeing our agenda. So we'll just leave that up for a minute. I realize I think we lose our interpreters when I have the agenda going.
The YouTube will lose the interpreters, but not the people in Zoom.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Technology.
If you are in Zoom and you cannot see the interpreter, please make sure you have the gallery view on. While you can change that view while you're still in Zoom, and that'll give you a line down the side of videos.
And you're always welcome to just message us if things get strange for you. So let's go ahead and get rolling and get started. Hi, I'm Michelle Cades, the president of SEPTA, and we're delighted to have you here. Happy 2021, Happy New Year to you. And let's just jump right in. I'm looking to make sure that we have quorum in terms of our participants. I imagine we do, but bear with me for a moment. Let me just do some quick counting. 1, 2. Oh yeah, we're definitely good. All right, excellent. So thank you all for coming tonight. I'm just going to run through some announcements and updates as quickly as I can. And then we're going to have a couple of resolutions to discuss and vote on. And then we're going to jump into our program. We're very excited to have Dr. Bill Stixrud be joining us this evening. So let's hop through the business and then get to work. For starters, everybody who's in on the Zoom, thank you for being members. Everybody watching on YouTube, please feel free to join us as a member. When you join, your membership is good through the end of October. So go to fairfaxcountysepta.org and click on join. We are looking, as always, for liaisons to all of our schools. If you are interested in becoming a liaison, please email us. And a big thank you to those of you who participated in our Thankful Thursdays campaign. We know that our teachers and our school staff have been under tremendous pressure in terms of doing virtual schooling. And so throughout the fall and early winter, we were doing some Thankful Thursdays. And so thank you to everybody who jumped in and joined in. We are looking for a volunteer. If there is anybody in the Zoom or actually in YouTube right now, I don't think we have the chat turned on yet for YouTube, but in the Zoom, we are looking for somebody to coordinate our awards program. Every year we put on a wonderful awards program for staff, for community, and we are looking for someone to coordinate this. So if you are an organized person and you can carve out some time, we are happy to mentor you and we would love to have your help. So please feel free, you can message us right now or send us an email as well. Also coming up, we have our next deadline for mini grants. So if you are a special education teacher, listen up. If you know and love a special education teacher, please let them know about this. The next deadline is February 1st. So I want to congratulate our fall winners. And if you know these teachers, please feel free to reach out and tell them congratulations. We have Susan Hahn from Great Falls Elementary, Jamise Herring-Barker from Hayfield Secondary, Rebecca Marique from Laurel Ridge Elementary CSS, Denise Strong from Cardinal Forest, Philippa Van Gelder-Hindman from Fairfax Villa, Samantha Vivian Beck from Twain. Congratulations to all these people who won mini grants from us. And just to give you an idea of some of the projects, this is really what your dues go toward primarily. Some of the projects are going to include purchasing an outdoor classroom for students in early childhood and intellectual disabilities programs. They're going to be getting a utility wagon and some pop-up gazebos and garden tools for the students. Another project is online resource subscriptions for virtual learning. Another teacher is getting gift cards for their school store to be used for student rewards. We're buying some, or they're buying some tactile learning and social emotional toys like water toys and fidgets and other de-escalation tools. We've got movement things that are being purchased like wiggle seats and kickers and desk bikes, and rewarding break activities like magnetic mazes and puzzles. Oh, and also extra copies of a specialized reading program so that fewer teachers have to share resources. So the grants can be used far and wide, and we're really delighted to be able to provide them for so many teachers. All right, next up, we had our advocacy work, and I would love to thank you. And if you want to even turn on your camera for just a moment, anybody who participated in working towards getting restraint and seclusion policy pushed through for Fairfax County Schools with the school board. So turn on your camera. I really want to wave to you and say thank you. If you provided testimony, if you contacted your school board member, if you contacted us. I realize I had no way of seeing everybody who turned on their cameras. There, I see some of you now. So if you helped out with this, please, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can even unmute and say yay, because this was a huge celebration for us. And I really want to say thank you to everybody for helping out. This was actually just tremendous. So thank you very, very much to all of you. Look at those faces, yay, thank you. Advocacy is what makes it happen. And we really pulled it off from our organization, and I was just delighted and thrilled. So thank you very much. All right, you can turn off your cameras now so we can keep going. I believe that that is all of the announcement pieces that I have. So why don't we jump into resolutions, and then we'll just quickly touch on upcoming events and then get into our speaker. So Amanda, I know that you have 2 motions for resolutions that you want to share with us and explain a little bit about what a resolution is and why we wrote them. And you're muted.
So that the YouTube can see me, can you turn your camera off?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I will screen share.
Thank you.
Oops.
All right, good evening, everybody. The first resolution up for working through this evening is the Restraint and Seclusion resolution, which we will see here in just a moment. We do our, so I first have to make the motion. I move for SEPTA to adopt the Restraint and Seclusion resolution as proposed. And then
so
we need
Amanda, do you want to explain briefly what the resolution is and why we're doing this?
Well, that we're supposed to do the motion first.
Thank
read
you.
Through it, and then that part, and then
excellent.
Discussion.
Sorry, thank you.
Sorry.
I love Robert's rules. Go ahead.
So I've made the motion. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay, so then I will read through the resolution as is. This was all emailed out ahead of time, but per Robert's rules, here we go. Whereas all students need to be educated in environments which are supportive and free from abuse, assault, injury, trauma, and risk to life, whereas severe behaviors are a student's communication of an unmet need, whereas National PTA endorses the Keeping All Students Safe Act introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives in November 2020, and whereas the use of restraint and seclusion has resulted in the assault, injury, trauma, and in some cases death of children in public schools, and whereas children at risk, especially students with disabilities, are disproportionately subjected to restraint and seclusion compared to their non-disabled peers. Next slide. Sorry. Be it therefore resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs that prohibit the use of mechanical, chemical, prone, and supine restraints in schools. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs that prohibit the use of seclusion in schools. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs that require school personnel to be trained in the use of evidence-based de-escalation techniques that do not involve physically handling students. Further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs that result in the creation of safe de-escalation spaces separate from any space used for punitive discipline, that such spaces be in visual and auditory range of staff at all times, that such spaces allow a quiet, calm space to de-escalate, and that no student shall be secluded in such a room. And and be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs that require schools provide mental health supports to both students and staff involved in or witness to restraint or seclusion. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs providing that the use of physical restraints, excluding prone and supine restraints, shall only be used as a last resort in emergency situations, not as a substitute for comprehensive school-wide supports and accommodations, that all interventions shall cease as soon as the immediate danger of physical harm ceases to exist, and be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA supports legislation, regulations, policies, and programs that ensure the safety of children in emergency cases where physical restraints, excluding prone and supine restraints, are necessary, that require schools to provide written notice of their restraint and seclusion policies to families, and that require same-day written notification of any incidents of restraint or seclusion to families. And be it further resolved that SEPTA will seek, via educational literature, programs, and projects, to educate the school community and parents about the risks inherent in the use of restraint and seclusion in schools.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. So we have a motion to adopt the resolution on restraint and seclusion that has been seconded. And now we need to open up for discussion.
Michelle, if I can
Yes.
speak to the resolution, just.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
please do.
This is the rationale for the resolution. National PTA's 2015 resolution on restraint and seclusion does not call for a full ban of seclusion in schools. In November 2020, National PTA endorsed the Keeping All Students Safe Act, called CASA, in the House of Representatives. This would ban seclusion for all schools receiving federal funds. Additionally, in March 2019, Fairfax County Public Schools made national news for their misuse and misdocumentation of restraint and seclusion. This has been a critical point of advocacy for Fairfax County SEPTA ever since. We recently successfully advocated for a timeline for banning seclusion entirely in FCPS, as well as ban on supine restraints, in addition to the ban on prone restraints from Virginia itself. Given National PTA's support of CASA, the Keeping All Students Safe Act, Fairfax County SEPTA proposes this update of National PTA's 2015 resolution on restraint and seclusion for Virginia PTA's adoption and our own adoption, with the hope that if we adopt it, then Virginia PTA will adopt it. We have submitted it for their adoption in March, and that then Virginia PTA would pass it on to National PTA for adoption in their next resolution cycle, which is next year. And then I'm done.
Thank you, Amanda. So do we have any questions? If we do, let's throw them into the chat, please. I'll just keep a look here for a moment and see if anyone has any questions. Anything they...
You can also raise your hand, and Michelle, if you could turn your camera on.
All right. Thank you. Technology is just not my best friend. All right. I don't see any questions. I don't see any hands raised. I don't see any comments. So it has been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution on restraint and seclusion. And I just realized that I can't do the poll. Sorry, Amanda, hold on. I'm logged in from another device. My polling, Amanda, you're gonna have to do the poll. I'm sorry.
It actually tells me I can't. You're logged in from another device. Your polling session isn't active.
All right, let's do this old school, sort of, in that case. Everybody should be able to raise their hand. And to do that, let's see, what do you do?
Hey, Michelle,
Yes, Debbie.
Yeah, under reactions, you can click on reactions. You can actually say yes or no. I'm not sure where that shows up, but I have a check mark that says yes, or I have an X that says no. But
On your participant list, everybody, if you go and hover at the bottom of your at your ribbon at the bottom of Zoom and click on participants, underneath all of the names should be a line across that says yes, no, go slower, go faster, more, or clear all.
All right. So that is what we're going to use this evening. So if you are, we're going to do yes or no. And if you do not click yes or no, then we're going to count that as an abstention, that you're not going to cast a vote. So if you are in favor of adopting the resolution on restraint and seclusion, click on yes. If you are opposed to adopting the resolution, click on no. And if you want to abstain, don't click on anything, please. We'll give folks a minute to do that. And let me just, whoops, technology.
Yeah, the yeses are disappearing for some reason.
Yeah, I'm concerned people are having a hard time actually finding
Let me see.
that control.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you for your patience. I will be so glad when we get to go back to meetings in person.
You can also, if you see the raise hand, you can use the raise hand feature or just type yes in the chat.
All right. And
or no, whichever it is.
Through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Myself is 13. All right, we have 13 at least yeses, and I don't see any nos. So we're gonna go with a pass on this one. Amanda, you're my
what is our member count?
Oh,
that's our one.
Let me see. Oh. We have 28 participants.
Minus 1, 2, 3, 4. We have at least 24 participants.
Saw your note about taking out the translators. Yes.
Yes.
That is true. All right. And I've got 1.
Debbie says in the chat, Debbie, for everybody who may not know, is Nova District's president.
No, I'm the assistant director this year. That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Hi, Debbie.
But,
all right.
but I did want to share that your meeting requirement is 10. And while some people maybe can't vote or whatever, as long as you have at least 10 of those plus, it should approve for business.
Excellent. All right. Then we're calling this one approved. Let's move along. No, moving on.
Can you screen share the second one, Michelle?
Yep. Give me a moment here. I can certainly do that.
So then as we prepare for the vote on this one, everybody, if it's easier to just type yes in the chat or no in the chat, if it's easier to type your vote in the chat, please feel free to do that.
There we go. All right, that should be coming up now.
Okay. I move for SEPTA to adopt the Special Education Funding, Services, and Training Resolution as proposed.
And do we have a second? Somebody.
This is Allie.
Diane. Either one.
We have Allie and Diane seconding. Thank you very much. Amanda, go ahead.
Okay. Bear with me, everybody. Whereas the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, originally passed in 1975 under the title Education for All Handicapped Children Act and amended in 1997 and 2004, pledged to school districts nationwide that the federal government would provide 40% of the extra cost of special education. That pledge has gone perpetually unfulfilled as the federal government currently provides funding for less than 15% of the extra cost of special education. The ability of local school districts to provide appropriate services to the nearly 7 million children who qualify for special education services across the country is dependent on IDEA funding. And whereas the extra cost of special education includes services provided by occupational therapists and physical therapists, speech language pathologists, assistive technology specialists, paraprofessionals, school counselors, social workers, and psychologists. The ability of these related service providers, RSPs, to provide appropriate services to their students is heavily dependent on both their caseload and workload. There are national staffing shortages across RSP disciplines. And whereas the percentage of students enrolled nationwide in public school receiving special education services has increased from 8.3% in 1976 to 13.7% in 2017-2018. The largest increase in identification is within the eligibility categories of autism, developmental delay, OHI, or other health impairment, and specific learning disabilities. There are marginalized and undersupported populations within the disability community that are routinely under-identified and or not provided appropriate supports and services. And whereas the achievement gap between students with and without disabilities demonstrates that students with disabilities do not have consistent access to curricula and services that result in more than a de minimis education. The 2017 Supreme Court case, Andrew F. v. Douglas County School District decision states that, quote, every child should have the chance to meet challenging objectives. Standardized tests that measure achievement are often inaccurate measures of the capabilities of students with disabilities. Whereas Universal Design for Learning, UDL, guidelines are a tool used in the implementation of UDL, a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people that is evidence-based on scientific insights into how humans learn and addresses systemic barriers that result in inequitable learning opportunities and outcomes. UDL is included in the 2016 Every Student Succeeds Act and the 2018 reauthorization of the Perkins Act entitled the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. Therefore, be it resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA urges the United States Congress to pass legislation to provide full federal funding of the IDEA in order to support students with disabilities' ability to reach their full potential and become an independent member of society. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA acknowledges the important role that related service providers have in providing a free and appropriate public education for students with disabilities, and strongly urges funding for staffing levels determined by a workload analysis approach to support the identification of and service quality for students with disabilities, along with improved staff retention. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA urges Fairfax County Public Schools to provide annual training for all teachers in UDL guidelines to provide multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression such that the needs of all students are recognized, including marginalized and under-supported populations within the disability community, such as, but not limited to, those with complex communication needs, sensory integration disorders, twice exceptionality, visual impairment, etc. To refer these students to the local screening committee, to provide annual training for members of the special education team in the assessment and identification of the range of disabilities in students, and to advocate that teacher certification programs include mandatory curricula addressing strategies for meaningful inclusion and instruction of special education students through the use of UDL guidelines. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA encourages all local units and community members to participate in their state-mandated Special Education Advisory Committee, the Advisory Committee for Students with Disabilities, and to advocate for fidelity of implementation in all special education services and programs. And be it further resolved that Fairfax County SEPTA encourages all stakeholders in the educational system to presume the competence of students with disabilities by supporting and providing access to appropriately challenging curricula for all students, to include classroom instruction about disability history and people with disabilities within existing inclusive curricula, to support and advocate for school systems to implement professional development to train all teachers, general education, special education, and specialists such as music, art, physical education, etc., in supporting the needs of their special education students, whether those needs be related to fine and gross motor skills, communication, assistive technology, twice exceptionality, etc. To support the development of standardized tests and universal screeners that are normed to include students with disabilities who access these assessments using the accommodations deemed necessary by their individualized education plan teams. And that was a mouthful. And now we are done.
Amanda, thank you very much. I want to come back and thank Amanda at the end of this, so please don't let me forget to do that. Does anybody, Amanda, you want to speak to this resolution?
The rationale for this resolution addresses the systemic underfunding and understaffing of special education at the local, state, and federal level, which perpetuates the achievement gap between students with disabilities and their non-disabled peers. It includes proper identification of and support for students with disabilities across all settings through increased professional development, access to curricula, and development of standardized tests and universal screeners that can accurately measure the capabilities of students with disabilities. Fully funding IDEA will give districts enhanced ability to hire staff, such as related service providers, in ratios that significantly benefit both the identification of and services for students with disabilities, while also increasing staff performance and retention. These benefits, along with access to challenging and inclusive curricula, decrease the achievement gap for students with disabilities when implemented with fidelity. And just as a further explanation, there was something in there about the workload approach versus the caseload approach. A workload approach takes into account the extra hours that related service providers need to put in for the administrative side of working in an education environment, so the IEP meetings and all of that a caseload approach does not address.
All right, excellent. Thank you very, very much, Amanda. And what I'm going to ask, if there's any discussion, you are welcome to put it in the chat or unmute yourself. And I'm working on this here. All right, I'm having a hard time seeing chat. If there's any chat, Amanda, do you see anything in chat?
I do not see anything in the chat at the moment.
Great.
I have cleared all of the yeses that might have still been up there from the previous.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that as well. All right. So in that case, there's a motion to adopt the resolution on special education funding, services, and training. We are going to use our little yes, no clickers. If you are in favor of adopting this resolution, please click yes. If you are opposed, click no. If you abstain, don't click anything.
And if you can't access it, use the chat.
Thank you. Perfect. All right, I'm counting here. 1, 2, 3.
Make sure to count the raised hands too.
I've got 10.
I've got 10 yeses from the buttons and 2 raised hands. Oh, 11. So now 13. And then 1 yes in the chat. So 14.
Perfect. All right. Then in that case, that motion passes. We got the ones in the chat as well. So outstanding. Thank you. Bear with me for a second. Let me stop this and get things back to normal on my screen. Rose. Everybody there, I hope still? Okay, good. So Amanda, I wanted to say thank you very much. You especially worked so hard on these resolutions, and thank you very much to everybody who chimed in to vote and joined us tonight to vote for them as well. We are excited that we have submitted these to Virginia State PTA, and we're submitting to National PTA. So this is very exciting. Amanda, anything else to add on this before I move on?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. Terrific. Thank you very much. Jumping back very quickly then to our last couple of points for upcoming events. We have an ACSD meeting, the Advisory Committee for Students with Disabilities. The next one is Wednesday, February 10th at 7. There is a SEPTA general membership meeting like this one coming up on February 16th, and we actually really wanted to alert people to this one. We have published, or we are in the process of publishing the information on recovery services. recovery services are similar to compensatory services in that it would be getting additional services that you could get from the school system. However, compensatory services and recovery services are different, and I'm going to completely garble the expertise on how they're different, except that recovery services has to do with loss based on COVID-related issues. There are a lot of questions about how FCPS is going to be figuring out who is eligible for recovery services. And so we are outsourcing to a specialist at our next meeting. So Tuesday, February 16th at 7, we will be joined for a discussion on recovery services by Hank Millward, who I personally adore. He's the Director Office of Specialized Education Facilities and Family Engagement. And he is a man who has chosen to dedicate his retirement to advocating to help out parents and families. So I think he's awesome, and I encourage you to please join us next month. We also have coming up the Virginia PTA Annual Conference, which is going to be spread out over several days in March, the 15th to the 20th. And we do have some funds available if people would like to attend as SEPTA members. So if you are interested in attending, please contact me to send an email to president@fairfaxcountysepta.org. And let us know if you're interested in coming. And the sooner the better. We're hoping to send in all of our registrations at once. All right, let's move on to our